Yo, this is it. I'm Mr. Fate, and you're listening to Attack of the Beats on IllMuzik.com. Once again, another 5 beats, another 5 reviews. And before I get into it, don't forget there's the Beat This competition. And the sign-ups are happening today. Actually, they should be closed by now. And tomorrow's actually when I put up the beats. And this time it's a boom bap theme. So for all those that are really into boom bap style and all that, this is for you. And even if you never made boom bap beats, it's something new to try, whatever. And if you don't know what boom bap is, slap yourself silly. Alright, so let's get into it. First up, we've got AR the Superstar with August Madness. Let's check it out.
No question. Alright. Okay, so that was AR the Superstar with August Madness. Alright, so for this one, I really like the keys that you have in the background. Like the one you hear at the beginning, that's really cool and everything. When you bring in the synth thing, that's what just takes away for me. I mean, because the keyboard stuff, it sounds really, really good. And you have the drums, and then you bring in that synth part, which I just don't think goes with that at all. So because when I heard the keys, I think honestly, something like some strings would be really good on that. Okay, because sometimes when you're making a beat where you have some smooth keys or something, you're thinking, I'll add some piano or add guitar or whatever, this and that, whatever. You could do all that, but there's times when you have something that just sounds very smooth, and it makes you want to create just a very simple, minimalistic beat. And I think that's what it is in your case. I would just use those keys as is, keep them the way they are, and just have some drums on top and maybe some strings in the background. That's it. Because that's the thing people have to remember, is that when you're making beats, you don't always have to add a whole bunch of stuff to it. So not that you have a bunch of stuff on this, but it's just, I'm just saying in general, when people do that, you don't have to keep adding stuff. So in your case, keep the keys and the drums and get rid of the synth part, add some very light strings in the background, see how that turns out. As far as the drums, I think the drum sounds are okay. I just think the pattern needs to be simplified, because it sounds like you're trying to do like a little kick roll, I think it was, on that. So I would just keep it simple, and by saying that, what I mean is that because you have this, these very laid back keys, I think that the drums should be more like in your face, you know what I mean? Like Well, I mean, you can go either way. You can go like really laid back like you have, or you can go like more in your face, which I would prefer, because since you have these smooth keys, it brings life to the keys, right? And if you have these like some hard hitting drums or something like that, something with like a hard hi-hat, you know what I mean, something like that, and then you have, you know, you're just like boom boom ch, boom boom ch, do something like that, just very, very simple. But even if you have a slow BPM, when you do a pattern like that, it's going to make it sound like it's faster than what it really is. You know what I mean? Because the way you're doing it, it's like boom, ch, boom. You know, so but you could add some notes in between that. You know what I mean? So just try that and see how it turns out. But definitely get rid of the synth part, and yeah, then you'd be good to go. All right. So next up, we've got D-Cop, or is it D-C-O-P, with Footprint. Let's check it out. All right. Okay, so that was D-C-O-P, or D-Cop, with Footprint. All right, so with a beat like this, okay, there's a few things. I mean, first of all, that snare, man, I don't like those snares. I don't know. It's because it's just these like these short attack snares. You know what I mean? Like there's no life to them. It's just like just a short, you know, and it's just, I don't know. There's times where I've used a snare like that, but I always layer it with something else, and I always put reverb on it because I just hate those short snares, because they're just kind of just sitting there in the mix, you know what I mean? So try doing something like that. Try layering it, try putting reverb or whatever. But it's also the sound of that snare. It's like more of a stereo sound to it, so it expands more, right? And so I could hear some clipping every time the snare would hit. So just be careful of that. You know, you could just keep it the way it is, really, but just thin it out a bit and just bring it down in volume a bit and all that stuff. The kick's not too bad. It's a little punchy. I wish it was a little thicker, though. And the bass line's like, you know, it's okay. It's just that it's one of those bass lines, like the sound is okay. It's just that it just carries too much. You know what I mean? I would break it up a little more, have like more of a pattern to it rather than just like this roaring sound. You know what I mean? And then you have the hi-hat, where you're doing these hi-hat rolls, which are good. I do like them, but I just think, you know, you don't have to use it too much all the way through. You can use it sporadically and all that. The background synth, I did like that. That was a nice addition. And as far as the piano, here's the thing: the piano, it sounds nice and everything, right? But it's just like I always tell people, you got to remember, you know, after you make a beat like this using a sound like that piano, you step back and you say, wait a second, can I picture such and such an artist spitting over this? You know, because really, I mean, you get caught up in the moment as you're making the beat and you're like, oh, you know, it's dope, I like this, and you know, you're nodding your head, But really, I mean, think about it. Can you picture somebody, some big name artist, spitting over this? So if you can't, then then you scrap it, or just not really put it out there. Because I'm not saying that's the way for your beat. I'm just saying is that when you have a piano like that, which sounds very, very thin, you could tell it's from a plug-in. It's actually just yesterday I was watching this video where this guy was auditioning this cheesy keyboard piano, maybe like $200 or something, versus a real piano, a real upright piano, which is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And you can definitely hear the difference. The real piano has some nice depth to it and all that stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, when you're using a piano plug-in, always check for some kind of parameters that you can change, some kind of options or whatever. They usually all have that. And if they don't, add some EQ, add some kind of effects or something, just to beef up the piano. Because every time you use a default piano synth, it's going to come out sounding thin and kind of cheesy. You know what I mean? So in your case, I would say it's borderline. So, but it is a nice pattern. It does sound nice. I just wish that it was more of a beefier piano, sounding a little more rougher. You know what I mean? So check it out on YouTube. There's videos like that. People doing examples of that. Either like a violin, some cheap violin versus a $150,000 violin or whatever. And the same with piano. So just try that, and just remember that, when you're using the piano and stuff. And the reason why I say that is because I like to use piano synths a lot, and when I do, I always try to change the options, try to tweak stuff to make it sound more realistic. So yeah. All right, so next up we've got Lorenzo with 96s. Let's check it out.
It's gonna cost you.
All right. Okay, so that was Lorenzo with 96s. All right, so for this one, first of all, I got to give you props for making it this gutter beat. I mean, it's not my personal preference for beats or whatever. That's not my style, but the way you did it, yeah, I got to give you props on that, because it just sounds gutter, So, and I can definitely picture like one of these today's artists spitting over this stuff. And here's what's interesting with the beat, okay, is that first of all, the drums, I have no complaint with the drums. They're good, it's got a nice style to it. You did a good job keeping the flow moving and all that. The bass line, it's a little bit present there in the mix, but it's good. I do like it for the style. It's a good bass line. I like what you do with it. But the thing is, you have that background music, the background synth and all that, and it sounds out of tune, right? The keys, the pattern that you have and stuff, and that's fine. I mean, obviously that's what you're going for, and it does have a a certain vibe to it when you do it that way. But it's just funny because I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, how would this sound if the synth in the background was actually in tune? Actually something like a nice sounding synth pattern. I think it would make a world of difference if you did that. Obviously it would. So I'd like to hear this beat again, but like I said, just change the pattern in the background, make it actually, stick to some basic notes, if you will, whatever, like C, F, whatever, and just to make it, just to hear it different, just to hear it actually sound in tune. You know what I mean? Yeah, because it's interesting, to hear a beat like that. And I've heard other beats like this where it's that kind of style where it's it's like this out of tune style, whatever, and that's cool. But I always wondered that. I was like, how would this sound if it was actually something that was smooth? You know what I mean? So and then the other thing too is that overall, I think because you have like the police sirens and all this stuff in the background, I think it really comes down to just the mix, the overall mix, because the way you have it, I can hear those sound effects in the background, but they're just like way in the background, like in very thin sounding, like they just sound like they're in the back of my head, you know what I mean? It's like they're not actually in the mix, you know what I mean? So I think you just need to really kind of remix the whole thing, just to make everything sound pretty good together, you know what I mean? Like you can have the sirens, like pan to the right, or some other sound on the left, whatever, but make it more prominent, because it's hard when you're using certain samples or something, or certain plugins or whatever, because you're talking about audio sources coming from all different directions, right? Some sound like they're very distant, some sound like they're right in your face, so it's hard to mix all that stuff. I still struggle with that, but anyway, just so you have a heads up on that, so just remember that certain sounds, the background ones, that you need to bring them up more in your face and make them a little more prominent. But yeah, anyway, try that with the keys and see how that sounds. That'd be interesting. All right, so next up we've got On and Calf with Nav. Let's check it out. Alright. Okay, so that was On and Calf with Nav. Alright, so this is an interesting beat because of that synth they're using. Now, it sounds like it's out of tune, obviously, and that's cool, whatever. But I was actually expecting that to just be some sort of intro. I didn't expect it to be all the way through. You know, so that's one thing I wasn't crazy about, because I thought for sure you're going to change it up. Maybe, maybe about 8 or 16 bars in, all of a sudden you would just, probably 8 bars in, all of a sudden you would just change it up or whatever. But even like with the bass line too, it took about, halfway through the beat before you finally brought in the bass line. So I was expecting a lot sooner. But for what you did, it does sound nice. It's just that as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, I'm waiting for something else to come in. You know what I mean? Because it does sound nice. You have the nice drums, nice reverb on the snare and all that. You have the little vocal snippet, which is a nice addition to it. And the bass line was good, although I do prefer a different style of bass line, but it is good. But yeah, like I said, the main thing is that main synth. So I don't know what you could bring in as your main lead or whatever, but as far as what you have, I mean, it's cool, whatever, but honestly I just expected it sounds like an intro type sound or whatever, so and especially I think it's because also you have like this lazy drum track, right? So I'm expecting all of a sudden it's like boom, you just come in with this this fast drum track and a totally different sound or something, so just keep that in mind. I mean, if you feel like reworking this beat or whatever, I'd like to hear if you make some adjustments to it, but so that's what I was expecting. But for what you have, it is nice. I do like it. I was just expecting something a little different. So all right, okay, so next up we've got the last beat. It's Soul City with 2018-0515-4. There's no name for this one? Ugh. All right, let's check it out.
The joy of children laughing around you, these are the makings of you. It is true, Moses. The joy of children laughing, the makings of you, Moses.
All right. Okay, so that was Soul City with 2018-0515-4. All right. Okay, so I do like this flip. It's very nice, very smooth, of course. You got some nice drums going on and all that. And it's always nice to hear this flip. The vocal snippet's very nice. And it's cool because, you chopped up the sample the way I expected. But when you brought in the... sounds like the little keys or whatever, you brought that in, you just had them delay out or whatever, echo out. You brought that in. I mean, that was nice because it's like that's taking over as like the lead instrument, so that was cool. Although they do sound a little loud in the mix, though, it does sound really nice, as you bring that in and stuff. So I mean, for me, I would bring it down volume a bit and just try maybe a little bit more of a pattern with those keys or something like that. But it is very nice. I do like it. The only thing is that I've heard, with other beats that you made where you do the same thing here with your chops. So I don't know. I think you're using Machine or something. I can't remember, but I don't know how you're chopping them. But it's just because they just all your samples come in like there's a bit of a fade in, on each sample. So I mean that's your style. That's cool, whatever. But that's not something I was crazy about, So I don't know. Let me know because I can't remember what you were using or whatever, but I'm just curious to know like how you're chopping the stuff, whatever. But it is nice. I know that's your style and all that, so that's cool. But but it's a nice flip and very smooth, and I like what you did with it. All right, so that's it for me. I'm Mr. Fade. This is Attack of the Beats. Keep sending the beats in to keep reviewing them, and my favorite beat is The winner is, drumroll please, Soul City with 2018-0515-4. Let's check it out.
The joy of children laughing around you. These are the makings of you. It is true.